My name is Corbin Carlton. I am presenting the Chapter 4 case, the MBA Decision, and NPV analysis. The situation is 28-year-old Ben works in finance for East Coast Yachts, ECY, but he wants to achieve his goals in life, and that requires an MBA. At ECY, he is paid $57K per year. It grows at 3% per year. He's taxed at 26% and has 40 years of productive life left in him. He's considering either Wilton University or Bradley School of Business to obtain his MBA, but while he's at both schools, he is unable to maintain his job at ECY. Wilton is a 2-year program with an annual cost of $70,500. This must be paid at the beginning of the school year. After he graduates, he'll receive a job offer of $105,000, and this pay will be at the end of the work year. He'll also receive a sign-on bonus of $18,000, and this salary will grow at 4% with an average tax rate of 31%. At Bradley, it's less prestigious but has a 1-year program of $83,500. Again, this must be paid at the beginning of the year. He will receive a job offer for $88,000 per year. Again, this must be paid at the end of the year. The pay is less than Wilton because it, as I said, is less prestigious, and his sign-on bonus will also be less, of only $15,000. This salary will grow at about 3.5% and have an average tax rate of 29%. So the questions for this analysis are: what non-quantifiable factors are relevant to Ben's decision? Is it appropriate for Ben to evaluate this decision based off the future value of each option? Financially, what is the best choice if salaries are paid at the end of the year? And what about Ben's age? If he were older, would this affect which school he would choose or if he would stay with ECY? Continuing, what starting salary would be required to make him choose to stay with ECY? Number 6, would Ben's decision towards the MBA change if he were to receive a student loan? And lastly, since I have a very similar situation to Ben, was it a financially logical decision to obtain an MBA from SEMO? So these are the formulas that will be used for this analysis. We have the net present value, net income, and growing annuity present value formulas. And each of these, R is the discount rate, T is time away from present, T is the tax rate, big T, and G is the growth rate. There are some assumptions for this analysis. For one, the discount rate of 5.8% will be static, and we are considering that to be appropriate. The tax policy will also be static and exist for 40 years, the entire working life for Ben. ECY will not promote Ben. He will maintain his current post should he stay. Cash inflows received will not be invested to create future cash inflows. School expenses cannot be deducted from taxes. And lastly, there will be no disruption to Ben's 40-year productive working life. No health issues, no hiatus, etc. So question 1, what are some non-quantifiable factors that could affect his decision? Well, he or a close family member might have a health issue. There could also be a family connection to ECY that may cause him to stay. He may have a high stress life at home, which would make an MBA nearly impossible. And there could be personal feelings from Ben regarding school. Maybe he's always hated it and doesn't want to go back. He could also be afraid of failure. He could be afraid of not having a paycheck for some time, and then he could be afraid of moving away from home. Question 2, future value versus present values. So a future value tells the decision maker how much money will be obtained at a future point in time. Present value is the amount currently required to obtain a future value. So is Ben considering the present value, how much each decision is worth today, or does he want to see how much he'll have in the future? I think in this situation he wants to evaluate what's the best decision point now, since right now is the decision point. How much equivalent cash, pile of cash, would each decision be worth? So he can see them side by side right now when he's making the decision. Question 3. We should determine if Ben should stay with ECY or obtain an MBA. To do this, for all 3 situations, we need to look at cash flows. And we'll need to look at these cash flows for the 40 years of cash incoming, which is the remaining work life for Ben. And then once we have all the cash flows analyzed, we'll calculate an NPV, and we'll compare these three NPVs side by side. So for the ECY situation, it is simply a growing annuity. We'll start out with $42,180, and we'll let that grow and grow for 40 years at a rate of 3%. Now that $42,180 is the after-tax amount, and we can take 40 years of that growing annuity and bring it all to times 0. And that gives us an NPV of $991,187. So the question we have to ask is, do the MBAs provide a greater NPV? So we look at the cash flows for Wilton University. The first 2 years we see the cash flows are outflows of $70,500, and these are paid at the beginning of the school year. Now, time 2, there's no cash inflow, no cash outflows, because he's no longer paying for school, but his work will not pay him until the end of the work year. So we see at time 3, he receives his first year of salary as well as his bonus. In time 4, he has a growth of 4% but no bonus, and then time 5 through 40 are all brought together. We're assuming that this will grow for 4%, taxed at 31%. So this gives us a total NPV for Wilton. When you add up all the present values, you get $1,595,850. For Bradley, we have a similar situation with the work and school, except it's time 1 that has no inflow or outflow. So he pays for the school $83,500 at time 0, but will not receive his first pay for salary and bonus until time 2. We're going to combine years 4 through 40. This is going to grow at 3.5%. He'll be taxed at 29%. So the Bradley School NPV, when you combine all the present values, is $1,404,033. So you compare all three of these side by side. Wilton's NPV is clearly the highest by almost $200,000 compared to Bradley's, and significantly higher than ECY. So it would be best for Ben to obtain a MBA from Wilton University. So what about age? Does age affect Ben's decision? Whenever you do the same analysis but you change the year, so instead of being 28, Ben could be 33, 38, 43. I'm looking at increments of 5 years to see what the pattern is, what the change is. At age 53, there's finally a cross between Wilton and Bradley. Finally, Bradley becomes best. That's because Bradley only has 1 year of significant cash outflows, and then the rest will be cash inflows, whereas Wilton has 2 heavy years of cash outflows, and since he's 53 years old, there's not a significant amount of cash inflows coming in because he has to retire at the age of 68. So we can see this in chart form when we look at his age on the x-axis and his NPVs on the y-axis. At around age 53, the yellow line, Bradley, crosses Wilton. And then we're looking at which school would be best. Consistently, it is Wilton until Bradley at age 53 takes over. Now this analysis in this chart takes a look at the MBAs versus ECY. So consistently we're talking about $250,000 or more higher than ECY. So question 5, what salary would Ben need to receive from Wilton in order to justify staying at ECY? So what salary is so low that ECY is the better option? Recall the NPV is $991,187, and for this analysis I only modified the starting salary of Wilton. I preserved the cash flow dynamics that was in the previous analysis, and I used an iterative approach of modifying the initial salary until a Wilton NPV equaled the ECY NPV. So you can see in the top right there, Wilton's starting salary of $68,141 is what is needed for the cash flow dynamics to work out such that the NPV of Wilton is the same as ECY. Clearly, he's going to receive a much higher pay than $68,141. Oh, question 6. What if Ben receives a student loan? Now let's assume a 10-year loan at 5.4% interest that will be paid as an annuity. The first loan payment will start whenever Ben receives his first salary pay with the sign-on bonuses, so this loan's going to keep growing while he's in school. We'll assume $2,500 of loan interest is deducted from taxable income, since that's current tax law, and we're assuming a static tax law. We're only going to look at age 28 for this analysis, and we're going to assume Ben's going to pay this out as an annuity as soon as he is hired for his position. So these are the formulas that are used in the calculations for this analysis. It's a little more extensive of analysis than the previous cash flow analysis. As you can see, there are 8 columns. Number 4 is loan payment, 5 is principal, 6 is interest. None of these are paid until time 3, which is 1 year after he started work. And if you look at the interest in years 3 and 4, they're higher than $2,500. This will continue on until about time 11 or time 12, in which case the interest is less than $2,500, so you have to be careful when you're doing the after-tax and loan calculation. So that's going to affect the present value once you get under $2,500 as well, because you're not having as much of a benefit of the interest rate. But I calculated a loan payment of about $20,152. He would need to pay this 10 times in order to pay off his starting loan of $152,627, which you can see is the starting loan of time 2. I did the same analysis for Bradley, where he would have the MBA and then work starting in time 1. So the starting loan here was $88,009, and he would have a loan payment of $11,620. We have an MPV in this case of $1,410,304. So when you put all this side by side with the previous study, the student loans have increased Wilton's NPV by $8,200, while increasing Bradley by $6,271. Wilton is still the best choice, so the loans won't really affect which school he chooses, but it's important to note that paying interest and using that as a tax deduction is critical to increasing the NPVs in both situations. So lastly, I would like to look at my own situation. I work at Missouri DOT, and I have decided to get a MBA from SEMO. Currently, I am 31. I will retire at the age of 58, and I expect to live to about 80 based off the lifespan of grandparents. The MODOT retirement is based on the 90 and out model, so your age plus the time you worked has to equal 90, and you get to retire. My current salary is $58,304. It is growing at 1.15%. This is based off looking at pay in my organization over the last 10 years. It's not really grown very quickly, nowhere near inflation, so we have a bit of a personnel crisis. So does everyone right now, though. I am currently taxed at 30.5%, and I will be paid 80% of my current or of my highest salary once I retire. I considered SEMO, Southeast Missouri State University's Harrison College of Business, for my MBA. It was right next to my office, so it was a top choice. So I'm also going to look at age in my decision. So whenever I look at the retirement for MODOT, it's pushed back 2.5 years every time I look at a 5-year increase in age. Again, that goes back to the 90 and out model. So my assumptions for after SEMO will be to receive a salary of $120K, sign-on bonus of $20K, and a growth rate of 4%. I really believe this is a very conservative 4%. The high salary and high growth is acceptable in this analysis because I will be combining this MBA with a PE as well as a master's in mining engineering. So the cost here at SEMO will be $19,500 paid over 1.5 years, and I expect an average tax rate after SEMO of about 35%. And I will work at MODOT during the MBA program and retire at about age 68. So I look at the different ages, I look at the MPVs. Consistently, a SEMO MBA is the highest, and it starts out being worth over $1 million in terms of what I would currently receive if I continued at MODOT. You can see this in chart form. Maybe at age 57 to 60, it would be worth it to stay at MODOT, whereas that would be when I would choose to get the MBA. So this age represents the years I would start my MBA program. So to conclude, I'd suggest additional analyses be conducted. I looked at modifying the age variable, but when you're doing these studies, it's important to look at other variables as well before you make a decision. So that's why I say Ben shouldn't commit to the MBA until he does a multivariate sensitivity analysis. He should look at the most probable possibilities moving forward. Many of the variables used for all these analyses were static. In reality, these could behave dynamically. For instance, we're currently going through a period of high inflation. That should affect the discount factor. Lastly, for my own case, along with SEMO, additional schools should have been included as possibilities when doing the side-by-side analysis. Perhaps I'm missing out on a higher NPV from another school. I don't know that because I didn't do that analysis. So finally, I'd like to conclude by saying an MBA isn't for everyone. While it can substantially increase your NPV, it also requires that your personal cash flow behavior reflect what you learn from the financial coursework. An MBA's value is in learning how to manage a system. That's a key point. And also, your financial success moving forward will depend on your financial intelligence. How much academic intelligence you have, or however many letters you put after your name, the alphabet soup doesn't really contribute to the financial decisions you make. And lastly, I would suggest not to let emotions affect your analysis. Let mistakes be a teacher, learn from them, just like we do with artificial intelligence and neural networks. Anytime they make a mistake, they get better and better with each generation. We too should let mistakes be our teacher so that we can improve continually. And lastly, you're going to face a lot of disappointments in your career. Don't get angry, don't get upset, but rather let them build your character. Thank you, and have a good career, everybody.